Hello, hello, hello. Happy Monday, y'all, and welcome to this, what I like to call Master the Marketplace moment. I think that's what I'm going to start calling my Mondays, right? A time I connect with you every Monday, 7 p.m. EST, to align biblical principles with your entrepreneurial journey. Now, listen, I'm starting a new series tonight, and this definitely is for those of you that are just starting out. And those of you that have been in it for years will benefit from this too. But before I start going in, getting excited, I'm gonna tell you why I'm so excited in a second. So as you're coming in, tell me hello, tell me name and where you're joining from. And let me start with this as I see you guys coming in. I was gonna wait for more people to get in, but I have so much to teach you guys tonight. So I'm gonna tell you now I'm gonna be over 30 minutes because I have so many slides and you have slides tonight because it was so much. And let me tell you why. About 2 weeks ago, God woke me up 3 o'clock in the morning and said, help them get started. It's like, what are you talking about, Lord? That's what I do. And over the course of the last 2 weeks, from working with my coach to being in prayer, what I'm going to impart to you in this series, and I have some gifts for you along the way as well, is everything that you need to know. Those of you that know, like you want to start your business. Now, here's a couple questions. Now, I want to thank those of you that replied to the emails or posts that I posted about telling me your questions around your purpose or starting your business. So, as you're coming in, tell me which one of these questions is you. Hey, Kai in Hawaii. I appreciate you. Hey, Chris, tell me which one of these are you. Okay. Number one, if this is the question you're asking, what is God's intention for the talents and gifts he's blessed me with? If that's you, write a number one in the comments. What is God's intention for the talents and gifts he's blessed me with? Again, tell me what question is the one that is resonating with you the most or that you've been asking you right now, right? How can I be sure that my business ideas will actually succeed? That's number two. If that's you, write number two in the comments. Those of you that are watching the replay, this applies to you as well. Number three, how can I conquer my fear of beginning and really trust God's plan for my entrepreneurial journey? How many of y'all are scared? How can I conquer my fear? If that's you, write number three in the comments. Four, am I being greedy by wanting more, even when I'm already blessed with so much? I can't tell you the number of high performing women that email me that are already corner office, six-figure income and have this rumbling in themselves to start a business and they feel guilty. If that's you, write number four in the comments. Number five, can I truly start a business that aligns perfectly with my gifts and talents that will also generate revenue? Yes, I see you, Chris. Right. And then the last question here, number six, what steps should I take to transform my idea into a thriving, profitable business? So tell me which one of these are you? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or all three? I'm going to tell you out of the comments that we get from you all replying to posts last week and emails I sent last week, as well as the times that you guys are commenting here when I'm live or the emails I receive in general from all of you. And even if my team replies to you, I see every single email that you send. I want you to know this series is for you. Now, let me tell you, as we talk about, do you know your power? And what do all those questions have to do with your power? So let me go in out of the gate. Ephesians 3:20. You guys know if you've been around me, this is my favorite Bible verse. Now to him who's able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we can ask or think, according to the power that works in us. Now, many of us say, oh, he's going to do exceedingly abundantly above all. We say that, we quote that, but we leave out this part. That says according to the power that works in us. All right. I love it. I'm laughing because the people in the comments that are here live are talking to each other. I love it. I love it. I love it. Which is why I asked you guys a comment, right? So listen, let me come off of this out of the gate. When I talk to you about do you know your power, I need you to understand the power that works in us. So listen, you guys realize that there's power in your phone. There's power that is already here to work. But there takes certain things you've got to do to make your power work. So as we start digging into the series, I need you to get many of you do not even realize what your power is. Many of you don't know your power. So I don't want you to take this for granted. I don't care if you have a master's degree or a PhD. I don't care if you have a corner office, you're making six-figure salary. I don't care if you've been in the industry, you've been in for 20 years, you got all these awards on your wall. You can still not know your power. And how do I know that? I know it from my own journey. So some of you have heard my story before, and I get that, but I have to repeat it here for those of you that are new. And if you're new, it's your first time, say, hey, Nicole, I'm new. It's your first time hearing me live on a Monday, and you guys, my allergies are off the chain. So you're gonna see me rubbing my nose and doing all kind of crazy stuff tonight. Okay. So tell you my story and how I know this. I'm not somebody that just talks the talk or have read a book about it. I've lived it. I've studied it, and I only studied it so I can get out of what I was in. And I thought I was doing it for me, but then God then turned it around and said, now I want you to teach other people. So I've lived it, I breathed it, I learned it, I studied it, and I mastered it. So now I'm teaching it to you. Never intended to do that. Thought it was just going to be for me. I'm keeping it real, right? So let me tell you my journey. So as of this year, I've been doing this for 31 years. How old am I? Right? Thought I was only 35. God, my nose is just running, right? So with that, 31 years I've been doing this. Okay. So when I started in this work in 1993, I had the job I've dreamed of ever since I was 7 years old in the entertainment industry. And let me tell you something, I loved every minute of it. So back then, I worked for Viacom's largest cable network. We had an outreach to over 89 million homes on a weekly basis. And then from there, I worked in casting for the number one TV show on Fox, still in reruns, and all of y'all probably still watch it. And then from there, I worked with a production group, and what we produced generated over $12.6 billion a year. I'm only sharing that with you because I want you to know that I was playing really, really big, going to all the Hollywood parties, bumping elbows with stars, people you've seen on TV and have looked at on films. See, I was living a dream. But can I tell you, in the dark of the night when I was by myself, I started feeling tormented by that dream because I felt like something was missing. And I couldn't understand, how can I feel like something is missing when this is everything I ever wanted and I loved my job? And yet, I felt like there was a hole in my soul. And I don't know who on here is listening, whether you're here with me live or watching a replay. I see many of you, more of you are joining. So say, hey, Nicole, tell me what's up. As my grandmother would say, don't walk in this house and not speak, but you're in my virtual house today. So at least say, hey, girl, I want you to know I had the job I've ever always dreamed of. I was living it up. Listen, I still have some of the shoes I bought when I worked in the entertainment industry. That's how expensive they were in the 90s. And so every time I tried to talk to one of my girlfriends about it, they would say, Nicole, are you crazy? Do you realize the show you work on? Do you realize the red carpet events? Do you realize the stars that know your name? None of that mattered to me. And I felt dazed and confused because I couldn't understand, how could I feel like this again when I'm living this dream? And so in the middle of feeling dazed and confused, when my girlfriend said, let's volunteer at a youth program that was happening at our church on that Friday night, working with teenage girls. And as I worked with them, as their eyes lit up, my heart lit up. And for the first time in my life, y'all, my soul felt alive. This is how I felt. And so I realized I had a decision to make. I'm sharing this with you out of the gate because many of you do not realize that you are at a crossroad. And I don't think you're here by coincidence. I believe you're here because it is time for you to own your power. See, in that moment for me, when I realized I was at the crossroad, listen, I could either go after this thing that was rumbling in my soul, or I can go after the version of me that everybody else expected of me. And so obviously you guys know I made the decision because I wouldn't be here if I didn't, right? So I want you to be clear. Is it that you want to start a business? And I want you to be clear on where you need help, where you need support, right? And I talked about this earlier. So I'm not going to go into this in detail, but I need you to understand that whatever that is for you, then I was in all four of these areas. So in 1993, knees knocking and teeth chattering, I did start my business. So now let's cut to 17 years in. So now I'm doing everything I dreamed of. I started my business. I did it all, y'all. So by 17 years in, I had 13 chapters of my youth program. So, oh, that little work I did in church that night became a nonprofit. I had 13 chapters in churches throughout the country. And we were growing by leaps and bounds. In my for profit, coaching women like many of you, helping you understand what your purpose is and starting a business around it and getting paid for it. I had an 100% full coaching client roster, meaning I couldn't take another client. How many of you guys want a full coaching client roster? How many of y'all say that sounds good, right? So I wrote my first book in 2010. And when that book came out, I started then, well, let me back up and say I wrote that book because I thought I can't take any more clients, but at least I could give women the principles I'm using as a coach. And I could also, while I'm giving women the principles, I could use that money I'm generating to generate money for my nonprofit. Well, when that book came out, I started getting invitations to speak all over the country. So my business was exactly what I dreamed of. Again, here I am living this dream, y'all. But here's the nightmare. I was only making $13,000 a year. See, I had started my purpose to pretty much be doing community service. See, I started my purpose. I wanted my purpose to produce my paycheck. I wanted to be able to serve the world and make millions of dollars while I did it. hmm Do you know what my problem was? I realized that I didn't know my power. Now, if you would have asked me back then, I would not have been able to tell you that was the problem. I'm going to show you tonight what my problem was. And many of you, I'm sharing this because this is the exact place you are in. You do not know your power. See, many of you cannot see the label from inside the jar. If you've been around me, you know I say this all the time. Every day you're in a jar called you. So, how do you know the full power of you? And then there are other things that are coming against you or at play. So because I realized that I didn't know my power, because I realized something was wrong and something wasn't working, I hired a coach. That coach showed me. She began to allow me to see my label that I couldn't see outside of my jar. Working with that coach, I got clear on my purpose and how to align it with my work. I got clear on my power and started to stand in it unapologetically. And guess what? My revenue went from 13,000 to 200,000 within 6 months. Mhm. So I need you to understand the starting point is clarity. The starting point is you understanding your power. So my question to you is where are you in the journey to stand in your complete power? See, what happens is, you may be in the career you wrote out, that list we write out in our 20s of the career aspirations we had and other things we wanted to do, that whole list that you checked off, which was great when you're in your 20s, but now you're in your third, now you're in your 40s, now you're in your 50s. That stuff is done. That stuff was probably only 20% of your power. When I look at the career I had in the entertainment industry, I was only using 20% of my power. I'm now standing, well, look, according to me, I'm standing at least, I would say 80% because I know God has more for me to do and grow. Because if he didn't, I wouldn't be here. So maybe I should say 70%. But guess what? It's a whole lot further. And many of you, listen, you are at 10%. And there's so much more to pull out of you. And that is why you feel the stirring in your soul about wanting to start a business or getting clear on your purpose or the fear that's coming. All those things are your purpose, your power stirring up in you. Mhm. So, again, what I learned in that moment is exactly what I'm teaching you in this series. I had to get clear on my purpose. I had to get clear on what was stopping me from standing fully in it. And I had to position it to generate revenue. All three of those things I was disconnected from. Okay. So, literally, that is really what I'm going to teach you as I walk you through the three steps of standing your power. Now, this is a three-part series. It might end up being more, but right now I'm thinking three. We'll see. Right. And let me tell you out of the gate, many of you will need more than this series because I can't coach you. Many of you will need more. Y'all are quiet in the comments, so this is good, or y'all are writing notes feverishly. So, those of you that know you need more, you know you need support, I'm going to show you what that looks like. Okay. Why? Because if God wakes me up at 3 in the morning to tell me that y'all need help them to get started, and then God kept saying it. He said it the next night, and he said it the next night. He said it to me for 2 weeks. No, for a whole week rather. And then finally in a week, I started creating what he was putting in my spirit to do. This is not even all of what he poured in. I'm gonna show you what the all is. But I need you first to understand where you are. And I'm gonna say, Chris, you're good. You're in my program, girl. You got this and more. Because I know Chris, she'll be aside, she'll be, ooh, this and that. Got you already, Chris. We talked last week. All right. So here's the first thing I want you to get. Your power is in your purpose. Your power is in your purpose. So, as I talked to you about the three steps, our focus tonight is that you've got to get purpose clarity. Purpose clarity. Okay. So, I put a diamond here on purpose because you guys, when you buy a diamond, what's the first thing they tell you should look at? The clarity of the diamond. The clearer it is, the more expensive the diamond is. Hello, somebody. You want the diamonds that are absolutely clear. Mhm. So here's what I want you to get. And the reason I like to use a diamond, and when we talk about your purpose now, if you're around me, you're going to hear me say purpose, and then I say brilliance. Now, and let me tell you why I use purpose and brilliance interchangeably. Purpose is such an overused word. The reason I use brilliance is because a diamond is only a diamond, it's only a phenomenal diamond when it shines. So that's why I use brilliance. Plus, this Bible verse right here, Matthew 5:16, let your light so shine before men and women, they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. I put and women in there, right? So God wants you to shine. He created you to shine. Okay. So let's make sure you understand what brain says the quality or state of being brilliant, very bright, striking, distinctive, very good, excellent. A gem such as a diamond cut in a particular form with numerous facets so as to have special brightness. Hello, somebody. God created that. He created that in you. That is your power. So, for you to get clear on your power, I'm going to walk you through three steps. Y'all ready? Now, again, have so much. I've been doing this work for how many years now? 31. So I have over 96 hours of content I can train you on. I'm going to give you as much as I can in the next 20, 30 minutes. Okay. And some of you that need more, I'm going to show you what that more looks like as well. All right. Now, step one, you got to know how are you wired? So I call this your DNA, your distinct natural ability. And I didn't call it that. God did that because guess what? That's how he wired you. You know, when you were born, God put DNA in you. You know, I did the study a couple years ago on the fact that we all have DNA. Do you know we have each have, and if somebody's a scientist on here, please correct me because I'm not a scientist. I did this study. We each have 2.4 billion molecules that make up our DNA. 2.4 billion. And yet no two of us are alike. Isn't that deep? I can have all of this DNA in me, 2.4 billion, and yet mine and yours are not any way near close to being the same. Hmm. Yet many of us dissipate our power. And here is something so deep. Now, when we talk about learning how you're wired, I was reading the story of Paul talking to the church at Ephesus in Ephesians 1:18-19. Here's what he was saying to them. The eyes of your understanding being enlightened, that you may know what is the hope of his calling. Talking about God's calling for you. What are the riches of the glory of his inheritance in the saints? And what is the exceeding greatness of his power toward us who believe, according to the working of his mighty power? So, why am I saying all that? You see why I got highlighted is the hope of his calling. See, God is hoping that you understand your calling. He's hoping that you get a clue about your purpose. He's not going to do it for you. He's not going to do the work for you. He's not going to give you the clarity unless you do the work to get clear. Y'all with me? See, Paul wasn't praying that the Ephesians would receive the calling, but that they would realize it, that they would realize it was already theirs. It was already there and it was already theirs. Y'all with me? He was praying that they would realize it. Like, Lord, please open their eyes so they could see it. So let me ask you a question. What have you been overlooking? Or how have you been overlooking your brilliance? This was me. So when I was working in the entertainment industry, so listen, let me show you this. This is a picture of me at 7. Now, 7 years old, you see me with a baby carriage. And some of you guys have heard me tell the story before. So at 7, and by the way, my husband did a roast for my 40th birthday. And yeah, and in every picture he said I was talking. Guess what I did every day when I was little? I got in trouble at school for talking too much. And that's me being sassy and talking in this picture, right? Guess what I do for a living? I talk, y'all. Hello. Right. The second thing is in that baby carriage, most kids, especially at 3, would have a baby in that baby carriage, but I don't. I have papers and books because I've always been a natural born producer. Y'all get this? That's how I'm wired. So the fact that I worked in the entertainment industry was a natural inclination, but here's what God will always do. He's always going to stretch your gift. So what I do now is I produce my clients. Hello, somebody. I'm casting you and putting you in the right role that's in alignment with your gift and teach you all the ways you should be getting paid for it. That's producing. But I overlooked that for years. Overlooked it. See, my business was failing because I wasn't clear, because I didn't know what my DNA was, because I could not see the label from inside the jar. Y'all gonna see hear me say that over and over again. It's always gonna take an outside person because you don't do what you do to you. You don't. So the things that are intrinsic to your DNA that you will never fully understand. And because of that, you'll be like you won't be bright like a diamond should be. You'll be on dull. Hello, somebody. Mhm. I love this. I was putting this together and this popped up in my memories. It's such a trip. Listen, you must do the work to get clear. You had the power all along, my dear. You guys remember this? Glinda the Good Witch in Wizard of Oz? When Dorothy is trying to get back home and trying to get back home and trying to get back home, and it was right there on her feet. And all along the entire movie, as she's going meeting the Tin Man, and she's meeting the Scarecrow, she's meeting the Lion, and they're going to Oz, and they're talking to the Wizard of Oz, and they're doing all these things. And at the end, Glinda said, "You had the power all along." And that was me. I had a power in me I didn't know existed. And for many of you, part of your problem is that you are working in a place that you have power that you don't even know exists. And like Linda the Good Witch said in The Wizard of Oz, baby, darling, you had it all along, and yet you were overlooking your power. And so, because of that, your business will never grow to the heights that are possible. And really, it's because you've got to make a shift to connect to your power. For many of you, you are disconnected. So, what do I mean by that? Okay, y'all, you ready? Mhm. By another Bible verse, Romans 12:2. And do not be conformed. Notice I said conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good, acceptable, and perfect will of God. Do not be conformed. See, the world will con you into who you should be. Mhm. And for many of you, that is where you are. When God is trying to transform you, stretch you past where you already are. See, when I come on these lives, I'm not coming here for who you already are. I'm coming for the version of you that you have not yet become. Mhm. So, transform means to change in composition or structure, to change the outward form or appearance of, to change in character or condition. It's the difference between a caterpillar and a butterfly. Mm. Now, the thing that's so deep is that, so many people don't ever stop to think about the fact that a caterpillar, excuse me, a butterfly was once a caterpillar. That a butterfly had to do the work to move from caterpillar to butterfly. It doesn't just automatically happen. They've got to do the work. And the problem for many of you is you've got to renew your mind to stop living as a butterfly with a caterpillar mindset. Ah! Come on, somebody. Some of you guys, let me say this off the camera. Some of you are walking around as a butterfly with a caterpillar's mindset. Yesterday is over. God is trying to take you into new, but you keep doing the things the way you did them before when there's a new way to do it. Listen, my business was failing because what I realized is the tools on this level are not sufficient for your next. I needed a new set of tools. I was functioning as a butterfly with a caterpillar mindset. I hadn't shifted who I be. So, what does that look like? Let me give you some examples. Moving past your current success. I said this a few minutes ago. Listen, there's a Bible verse that says, forgetting those things which are behind, reaching forward to those things which are ahead, I press. Forgetting those things which are behind. I think that's Philippians 3:14 and 15. Let me look it up for you. Me and my last minute stuff dropping in my head. Hold on, y'all. I'm looking it up, looking it up. If somebody knows it, pop it in the comments. I'm trying to look it up. Philippians 3. I think it's 13 or 14. Uh, okay, it is. It's 13 and 14. Brethren, I do not count myself to have apprehended, but one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind, hello, behind me, caterpillar, and reaching forward to those things which are ahead, I press toward the goal. Many of you are not pressing, you're staying disconnected to your next level. Moving past your degrees. Listen, my undergraduate degree was TV and film. I could have said, oh, but I went to school for 4 years for TV and film. And then I went and got my master's degree in social work. And what I began to realize is that I'm one part Hollywood producer, one part social worker, and then all the years of additional training I went through to get to have this expertise in business development and entrepreneurship. You get all of those parts. That Bible verse says all things work together for the good. But if I would have stayed stuck on TV and film, when God was, I still use that degree. Come on, y'all. If I would have stayed stuck on social work, which there was social work methodologies and pedagogy and formulas that I use as a coach, and then even my business development training, all of those things are pieces of. But had I not moved past TV and film and did social work and not moved past social work and went into business development, hello, come on, somebody. But many of you guys are so stuck on who you already are when there's another level of you waiting for you. So I'm hitting my microphone, getting excited. Moving past perception, you worry about what everybody else has to think or say. Mhm. Or maybe it's imposter syndrome where you think, "Ooh, who's gonna pay me for that?" Or I have this lifestyle to maintain. How am I gonna maintain this and be able to start my own business? Whatever that might be for you, I need you to get that you gotta make a shift if you're gonna go after your complete power. And Imma tell you the most that I hear are these 2 are the biggest. Listen, when your success or your degree is in your way, you're usually dealing with perception or imposter syndrome. Mhm. So here's what you have to understand, y'all. There are 4 areas of you that have to be fully connected. Most of us only focus on one. Let me say this one more time after off the camera. There are 4 areas of you that have to be fully connected. Most of us only focus on one. Those 4 areas are your mental, spiritual, financial, and intellectual. These are the 4 areas of you that have to be fully connected. Mental, or could say emotional. Spiritual, that's obvious, right? Mental is when you are feeling fear or frustrated or overwhelmed or anxious. All that's mental. And listen, mental and spiritual are yin and yang. Financial and intellectual are yin and yang too. Most of us only focus on financial and intellectual, and really intellectual more so, and thinking that intellectual feed into financial. But when our mental and spiritual are off, then guess what? If this was a wheel, then that wheel would not even roll because it would be off, y'all. You need all 4 of these areas working at play. And so if these all aren't connected, just like there's wires in your phone, all 4 of these are the wire areas in you: mental, spiritual, financial, intellectual. So you can't pray about it and pray about it and pray about it. And God is going to look at you like, when you going to be about it? And if your mental is in your way or your intellectual is in your way, you won't ever be about it. If your financial is in your way, because you have a bankroll zip code issue, and I talked about that last series, so go back and watch that, then you'll never move into all of what God has for you. Okay. See, God gave you dominion and power. The reason you have not been able to tap into your power is because, listen, this is step 3: stop draining your power. The thief does not come except to steal and to kill and to destroy. Many of us don't realize that we're allowing him to do that. Now, before I walk you into step 3, I know some of you guys are like, but wait a minute. How do I do all of this? And yes, you are disconnected and don't even realize it. You're walking around in the dark. Oh, there's a Bible verse I meant to look up. I'll share it with you next week. It talks about walking around in the dark as if we're in the light, but we're not. And you don't even realize you're disconnected. You've got to plug in and power up to all 4 areas. First, you got to be clear on where you're in deficit, and then you got to do the work to plug in, power up. And some of you guys are saying, but how? So I'm going to tell you again, when God woke me up 2 weeks ago in the middle of the night, 3 a.m. Can't remember if it was 3 or 3:30. Anyway, it was middle of the night. And he said, help them get started. Now, I walked you through the first 2 steps, but I'm gonna tell you, you're gonna need more. And I'm gonna walk through the 3rd step in a minute. And so, what I want to walk you through is what I created for you to support you. Now, let me say this out of the gate: I have never ever done everything I put here together for you. I've never done it at such a economic price point. So I want you to know this is all God. So thank God. If this is you and you've been praying about it, then this is your answer. Okay. It's called the Take Off Intensive. So let me tell you how I'm going to support you. Then I'll walk you through the third step, and then we'll wrap for tonight, right? So this is for you if you want to start your business, but you've been asking yourself all the questions I said to you at the beginning. I took all those questions, and the reason I asked them is because I wanted to make sure what I was creating was going to support you, right? So if you're one, two, three, four, five, or six, or all of them, then this is for you. And hang tight, I got a few gifts I'm gonna share with you right here, right now. Okay. So the takeoff. It's a 6-month intensive of development and personal mastery. It starts on May 13th. Now, listen, I'm going to be teaching you live every other week. Live. Yep, me and you. It was not no virtual, not no pre recorded. I'm going to be teaching you live. Why? Because I'm going to be coaching you and pushing you out of your way. So if you know you need support, because I can only take a certain number of people because I'm coaching y'all live, right? So when you get bi weekly live group calls every other week, they're going to be on Mondays at 8 p.m. Okay. Now, in addition to that, you know what I'm focused on: mental, spiritual, financial, intellectual. Hello. Y'all don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that, right? So, how I'm going to do that is this 4 pillar framework. We're going to look at your personal growth and what is stopping you. What is hindering you? What's in your way? You might be brilliant, but God has another level for you. So, what's in between those two levels? Business foundations, helping you get clear on your purpose, helping you clear on how to align it in the work you're doing and how to position it to profit. And then everything I'm going to teach you is biblical insight. So there'll be times that I'm coaching you, and the times where I'm going to be asking you for feedback, and we're going to be doing it live. Why? Because this is kind of like a boot camp. Now, I didn't want to call it boot camp. I call it an intensive because I don't like that word. I don't know why I don't like it. I have nothing against it. It just doesn't resonate with me. But here's what I want you to know: boot camp is basic training. Many of you need the basics. Can I tell you, my business failed for 17 years because I didn't have the basics. I had to stop, go back, and figure this stuff out. And after this, then methodology. But before you can even get methodology, you got to have the basics down. Okay. So, in addition to the biweekly live calls, you're going to get tools and resources tailored to your growth. You're going to get, oh, come on, thing, click, accountability and go activation, coaching, cultivation, collaboration. This is why I do everything in community so that you don't feel like you're alone. So that you meet other women in the journey with you, so that you begin to see there are other people here with you, right? You get access to an exclusive community, but here's a couple other things you get as bonuses. One, mhm, is you're going to get to take the Brilliance Framework Assessment. Now, you're not going to take this until after our first call because I want to coach you and position you the right way so when you take your assessment, you know how to utilize it the right way. The second free gift you get is my book. Now, listen, you get this immediately when you enroll. Why? Because I need you to start the work now. Mhm. So this is weekly spiritual reflections. This is part of your biblical alignment, biblical alignment work that we will do while we're together. And I got some other special bonuses I'm working on too, right? So again, everything you get: bi-weekly live group calls, me and you, tools and resources tailored to your growth, accountability and goal activation, coaching, and cultivation. So listen, part of what my clients always tell me is I can see where you have blockage and I will call it out with love. I don't put you on Front Street. I don't. But what I am going to do is push you so that you see parts of you that you've never seen before. Remember, I said this: can't see label from inside the jar. So this is for those of you that are listening. You don't know what your niche is. You're not clear. You're like afraid. I don't know. Right. So the value of everything I just walked you through is 57. It's 5,000, really $6,000. Right. But typical investment would be 1,500. But for you, and I've never done this as economical as it has now. So you thank God for this, because this is not what I would have charged. $1,000 scholarship. So pretty much 500 paying full, or you can make 6 monthly payments of $97. Now, again, I can't take everybody because I'm really going to be coaching you guys live. So if you know that now's your time and you are a woman that's ready to get wired for takeoff. Now, the wire's already there, but you're ready to get connected and get clear and get the cultivation you need. Wiredfortakeoff.com. Grab your seat. We start on May 13th, 2 weeks from today, as I'm live. We start. Okay. Wiredfortakeoff.com. All right. So I just said that. All right. So let me walk you through our last step. Now, this one is my favorite one, right? Why? Because this is where so many of you guys don't even realize this is where you're stuck. Mhm. So listen, The thief does not come except to steal and to kill and to destroy. So I like to call it, it's like Superman and kryptonite. Y'all remember this? Y'all remember Superman when you were little? And kryptonite was the only thing that could stop Superman in his tracks. And any of his nemesis that knew that they could get a hold of some kryptonite, they would totally come and grab it and stop Superman. It's like he would lose all his power when kryptonite came. And I need you to understand that the enemy, when he comes to steal, kill, and destroy, he knows what your kryptonite is. Mhm. So I need to ask you, do you know what your kryptonite is? Where are you right now stuck and you're allowing him to keep you there? Is it that you are feeling like I'm not clear on my purpose? So that keeps you stuck because you keep in this place of I'm not clear, I'm not clear. Or maybe you're afraid to start or afraid of what people are going to say or all the things that come up with perception and fear, right? Maybe you have imposter syndrome playing. You guys know I'm going to keep saying these things over and over because these are the things I hear people say the most. Or here's the last thing people say to me the most: not making enough money. Now I'm going to tell you, anything you say is laced in one thing: fear. Mhm. If you're saying I'm not clear and I need to be clear first and I can't start, or I need to wait for my kids to graduate from college first or high school first. That's laced in fear. Or I have a lifestyle to maintain. Mhm. You're scared you're not gonna make enough money. That's laced in fear. Hello, somebody. Or, well, I don't really know what I'm doing. That's laced in what? Fear. Even procrastination, which I didn't put up in here, is laced in fear. I need you to understand. Whew, this is so good. Sorry, I'm getting excited because I know what I'm going to say. Fear is like an alarm. Okay. The problem is that many of you don't use it as an alarm. You let it disarm you instead of alarm you. So let me make sure you understand what I mean. So alarm is a signal that warns or alerts. Disarm means to deprive of means, reason, or disposition to win over. So when fear comes up, it's alarming you. So what you've got to do is say, okay, I'm afraid. So let me give you a case in point. When I was failing in my business, the reason I kept failing year after year is because fear kept me right where I was and I wasn't investing at the level I wanted to see the return. When I said, okay, let me really stop and look at what is alarming me, and I dissipated that, and I hired a coach to help me in my weak areas, then I dissipated everything that could hinder me. Instead, many of you stay in the disarm mode and you let it kryptonite you. It takes away all your power and you sit where you are year after year after year after year. You never move forward. I want you to know that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. So God hasn't given us fear, but he doesn't stop fear from happening. See, he wants to see when you do the work to move past where you are. Listen, anytime you are playing bigger, you're going to be afraid. So to give you one final example, there's a story, and I'm not going to read the whole story. In 2 Kings 8 through 23, it's called The Blinded Syrians Captured. Now, listen, here's a summary. This is verse 19 through 14. Okay. This is a summary. Okay. This is not me reading it. Through his prophetic gift, Elijah informs the king of Israel that the king of Syria has this strategy. Okay. That he's going to kill all of them. Right. So the king of Syria sends a great army to capture Elijah because he hears. He sends the army at night, which shows us that the Syrians were not going to take any chances, meaning that they thought they'd be asleep and they would know. Okay. Now, here is the next part of the story, starting picking up at 14. I am reading Bible verse, okay? Therefore, he sent horses and chariots and a great army there, and they came by night and surrounded the city. Okay, so again, this is the king of Syria coming to capture Elijah because he knows Elijah is informing the king of Israel of his plot. So he thinks, I'm going to take him down so he can't stop me from doing what I want to do, which is, by the way, what the enemy is trying to do is take you down so that you can't do the thing God crafted and created you to do. Need you to get that. So what happens next? And when the servant of the man of God arose, this is talking about Elijah, early and went out, there was an army surrounding the city. I'm sorry, this is not Elijah. This is I forgot his name. The guy that was working with Elijah. I can't think of his name right now, y'all, but when you read the Bible verse, you get it. I cannot think his name right now for the life of me. Did I write it down? So Elijah had a right hand man working with him, okay? And when the servant of the man of God arose, so this is Elijah's servant, right hand man, early and went out, there was an army surrounding the city with horses and chariots. And his servant said to him, Alas, my master, what shall we do? In other words, he's scared. He was like, Oh my God, they've surrounded us. What are we going to do? So what did Elijah do? So he answered, This is Elijah, do not fear, for those who are with us are more than those who are with them. In other words, don't be afraid. That's the enemy trying to act all extra, but I got power and it's called God. I got power and it's called my purpose. I know who I am, I know whose I am, and he will not stop us. Okay, this is a Bible interpretation by Nicole, right? So then he goes on to say, and Elijah prayed. So now he's talking to God and he said, Lord, I pray, open his eyes that he may see, talking about his servant. Then the Lord opened the eyes of the young man and he saw, and behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. So again, I told you guys this a couple of minutes ago. Paul asked for your eyes to be opened, and now Elisha asked for his servant, Lord, please open his eyes. Again, part of your problem is that you cannot see who God has already created you to be. You're disconnected, so you can't see it. That's and the enemy plays on that. The enemy plays on that. Okay. So at first, all the servant could see was the enemy, and it disarmed him. Okay. What Elisha did is prayer helped him become aware of the resources and power all around him. So you are always going to need somebody outside of you, whether it's me or some other coach you've been following. I need you guys to get this. Listen, you don't need any more information. You need to start to do the work to move past where you are so that you can see and your eyes can be open to what's already in you and around you that you can't even see. See, my business was failing because I was allowing fear to disarm me. It wasn't until I moved from disarm to alarm and said, okay, let me check this out. What do I need to move past where I am that everything shifted for me? My eyes were opened. Well, my business was failing because my eyes weren't open to my purpose. But working with my coach, they did open. So again, do you know your power? Do you know your power? I did not know my power. It took me getting clear on my purpose, my niche, getting clear on what was stopping me, and how to position it to generate revenue. That changed everything for me. And those of you that need support with that, again, wiredfortakeoff.com. Okay. This is for you. It's when I'm getting a text from President Obama about Democrats. wiredfortakeoff.com. $1,000 off. Listen, until it's full. We start 2 weeks, but listen, you start right away. You'll get a welcome video from me. You'll get access to join our Facebook group, and you'll get your ebook so you can start your work. Okay. So wirefortakeoff.com is where you go. So let me end with this. And you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you power to get wealth, that he may establish his covenant, which he swore to your fathers as it is this day. God gave you power. You got to do the work to activate it. You got to do the work to take anything that could hinder you from it. So again, the 3 steps to purpose clarity is understanding how you're wired, getting clear on how you are shifting so you can get connected. And last but not least is looking at what is disarming you, right? Shift to connect. And then what's step 3? Look, I'm trying to remember what I wrote as step 3. I know it, but I want to say it the exact way I wrote it. Okay. So I need you guys to get where you are and what's hindering you. And if you need support, if you're ready to be the version of you that God created you to be, I look forward to serving you in the Takeoff Intensive. I've never done something this low price point. I usually don't teach everything live. I usually listen with my mastermind coaches clients. We are working intensely in a different level. This one is going to be some personal development and purpose development. Why? Because listen, one of those 4 areas I walked you through is off. And if we're going to connect you fully and completely, we got to get you fully connected in all 4 areas before you can take off. And by the end of this, you will take off. All right. So with that said, that's part 1 of this series. Do you know your power? We're going to dig deeper into it next week. Again, those of you that know you need support to stand fully in your power, go to wiredfortakeoff.com and grab your seat before I get full and can't take, because I can only take a certain number of people so I can really coach you. All right. So with that said, y'all have a good rest of your evening. And and I will see you all. Listen, oh, one other thing to ask you to do, and I always forget to ask you to do this. Please share. Click if you're on Facebook, you can share it on Facebook. If you're watching me on YouTube, you can grab that link and share it with people. Why? Because somebody in your camp is at a place where they know it's time for them to take off and they don't know what to do. They don't know how to start. They don't know how to grow. They don't know any of it. And they need this word tonight. And you might be the vehicle that'll help them get their breakthrough. All right. So, with that said, y'all, it's my honor, my privilege. I'll be here next week, part two of Do You Know Your Power? God created you to have power, but you've got to know it, own it. And the first step is getting clear on what it is. All right. I'll see y'all next week. Bye, y'all.